what we do out there during the racing. It's it's very, very hard work. It's definitely a huge emotional roller coaster that you go through as a team. So you definitely don't want to have too many worries from what's happening on shore with your family and your child. So and I think you're absolutely right when you say that, why do they ask this question to the mums, but they don't ask the questions to the dads? Because it's just as hard for the dads to leave your children behind. Why would it be any harder for us? And I think I was quite lucky that Kyle, our son, and this is probably because of the nannies that we had, they would fully drill Kyle before the start of a leg, and they would make sure that he was happy and make sure that he would wave and make sure that he wouldn't cry. So they would definitely work him in a way that it made him lovable and happy when we were leaving, and that's much easier to then leave the dock than
definitely.
when your baby or your child's in tears. And I know one of the sailors in Dongfeng, he really struggled because his little daughter was often in tears when he had to leave, and I could see it in his eyes that he was really, really struggling. And so it's just as bad for the dads as it is for the mums.
No,
so.
I can imagine, and that emotional state that you really need to get into a focus and intensity that is it's one of the most intense jobs you have in the world. What you are doing, what you've done in the Volvo Ocean. I can imagine that feeling that I get when I go to the Kinderhof, the daycare, when they are crying and you get out and you're like 2 hours really broken and you cannot focus on anything. I can imagine if you're thinking that the next leg will take maybe 30 days and until you see them again. And it's really nice also that they were following you around the world. That was a great story.
I think that's the only way to actually, for me, I knew for sure that it was the only way that I could possibly be who I was during the race, is because I knew that my son would be standing at the dock when the boat would arrive after each leg. Because if I would arrive with the boat and then fly home to go and see my family, I wouldn't be able to recover physically, but also not mentally. So the fact that he was there on the dock every time the boat arrived, it was almost as if I just forgot about the rest of the world and I stepped into his little world and his little bubble. But by doing that, it really helped me to recover, because I could just forget about everything and just, focus on my family, even if it was just for 5 days. But it was such a good feeling, and it really helped to recharge the batteries to then be 100% to go again.
Well, it's amazing that you have that also that quality to change and make change the role in your life. From professional sailor to mother, and then back talking about the high performance, the professional sailing. Well, you were after Team SCA, that it was an amazing campaign, that you trained and you were mentored and a lot with the whole team, and there were high expectations somehow, and somehow the results maybe didn't go along. You did win one leg in Lorient, and that was amazing, but the impression, or at least the whole story of SCA will always be there. I think it was a really strong story. And I really like it. I went with my sister, that she was back then 15 years old, and I remember she buying everything. She was really big fan of yours. And after that one, the whole situation changed. You couldn't find the sponsor, and the rules changed also. There was the opportunity to make a mixed team, and you get the call from Charles Caudrelier, and he chooses you among many others as one of the best sailors that you are, definitely, but someone that he wanted you in in his team. How was belonging to a team of mainly men, you know, to women, mixed team in that little boat? Because when you go to the port, it seems big, but it's very little, I can imagine, and to be all around there and the things you need to go through. How was life in that boat? And how, tell me a little bit about that experience, maybe in the Southern Ocean and things that were huge, that you see those waves, you see that the cold, and it's really something that you are fearful, and yeah, you are there fearless.
Hmm. Well, I think to start off with, I think Dongfeng Race team, I dare say, was a normal team in a way that, like I mentioned before, there was no difference between men and women. And that's really how we approached the race. We were a group of sailors that were chosen by Charles as the skipper. And the great thing about Charles was that he surrounded himself by a group of people that he believed that he could win the race with. And he one of his sayings or mottos is, we weren't the strongest or the best sailors in the world, but we were the strongest team. And he really stood by that. And so we weren't chosen so much. Of course, we're all good sailors, but we weren't necessarily chosen because of our skills, sailing skills, but more who we are as a person and our personality, and whether we fitted within the group. And I think that's what made us so strong. And so living in a mixed crew for me in a way was already quite normal, because I'd done the Olympics in a mixed configuration as well, when it was an open discipline, and I'd sailed bigger boats in mixed. Probably I had done more mixed sailing than I had done sailing with women like Team SCA in the time of Team SCA. So for me it was quite normal, but I think we also had quite a special group of people. We were extremely focused on our goal, and that was to win. And we had a lot of respect and a lot of trust for each other. And I think that's two very strong words, that if you don't have that in each other, then you're not going to win the race, no matter how good you are as a sailor. And we had a lot of fun together. And I think that's something that a lot of people forget, whether you are in a professional sport or whether you are an entrepreneur, is you need to want to wake up in the morning, and you wake up and you want to get out of bed because there's a reason to get out of bed, because you want to achieve something. And I think for me, the biggest thing was the achievement as a team. I don't think I'm the type of sailor that would like to go around the world by myself. I take my hats off for people that do that, but I'm not that type of person. The fact that, I'm just a little part of the puzzle, and we're all working as hard as we can to complete that puzzle, I think that's what makes it so special. And it makes the reward so special as well. And going to the Southern Ocean, yes, it's seen as the most dangerous leg in the race, and that's because it's so far away from any form of rescue. There's no ships, there's no helicopters, there's no planes. So there's your team, there's the boat you're on, and there's the 6 other boats in the fleet, and that's it. And you have to rely on each other for any form of rescue. So that's pretty daunting in itself. But I think it comes back to the trust and the respect that you have for each other. And when I was lying in my bunk, I never doubted who was driving the boat. I had full trust that the right person was doing the job at the time. And that is, it gives you, a sense of comfort in a way. And also, I think in the case of the Southern Ocean, we were fighting to finish first in every single leg. But I think in the Southern Ocean, we sat together before the leg and we said to each other, this leg, our priorities are slightly different. And Charles balance this very well, because it is a balance you have to do between pushing the boat really hard, but getting your crew safe, your crew and your boat safe to the next port. And I think that balance was something Charles did very well, because the hardest thing to do is to tell your crew to slow the boat down. You know, we're all able to sail it really fast, and we all want to send it down the waves, but certain conditions can be dangerous, and sometimes we just had to throttle back and sail slower, or put a smaller sail up, which at times can be frustrating. And I think that balance was something that I really praised Charles for doing that so well. And, you know, in the end we finished second, but in that leg, the second Southern Ocean leg to Brazil. But I think that was a very, very good result for us, and we were very happy with how we handled that.
Yeah, the whole campaign was amazing. And yeah, you didn't win any leg until the last one. And the last one was crazy for the fans. Many people that listened don't know about sailing maybe, but it's crazy because you go all around the world, thousands and thousands of miles, and it was reduced to a couple of 3 miles, I think, difference. And
2.7.
yeah, it's crazy. And a strategy, one call that you made, your navigator with some advice made he decided to go through the coast, and the rest went out some exclusion zones that they had to go. And the difference was so tight between 3 boats that it's crazy. That would be the championship win. And I can imagine the frustration. How did you handle that night? And I can imagine it was so tight that it's what you were saying, the reward came later, and I can imagine the relief, but there was a big chance that you wouldn't win. And yeah, is that something that you think at that moment, being there, is there a chance, or you really believed we are going to win? You were really focused in that vision that Charles brought at the beginning of the whole campaign?
No, we kept believing throughout that whole leg. And even on the early morning of the Sunday, when there was, I think, 90 or 100 miles to go to the finish, we were already sailing along the coast when our 2 competitors or direct competitors had chosen to go out to sea. We were 50 miles behind. And so anyone would then, you know, give up, I guess, because that's too hard to catch up. But we kept believing, and you know, there's a lot of things that come into play there, is because we had not won a leg yet, so we were saving the best for last. We didn't necessarily have to win, we just had to finish in front of Brunel and Mapfre, the Spanish boat. But we studied this leg better than ever, and it really took some gutsy decisions to go here, but we always believed that it was possible. And I think what we had gone through until then as a team together, and the trust and the respect and the fun that we'd had together, we said to each other, okay, well, we've sailed the whole race and we've had a lot of fun. If we have to sail these next 3 days and not have fun, we can handle that. But if by doing that, we win the trophy, then we're all willing to do that. And I think that's the relationship that grew between us. And I really believe that helped us deal with the pressure that we were under, because obviously, you know, on Mapfre, on Brunel, and on our boat, the pressure was immense. It was a historic leg, and something like this will not repeat itself in history so very soon. And I think it really helped us be strong as a team and deal with that pressure and support Pascal, our navigator, and Charles, our skipper, in the decisions the difficult navigational decisions that they had to take. And I think, showing that support and always keeping believing is something we did throughout the whole race. We never blamed each other or pointed fingers at each other for a mistake. Everyone's going to make mistakes, but we were always there. We always had each other's back, and we always believed that the best person was in the best position for the team at the time. And by doing that, I think that made us an extremely strong team up until the end.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, definitely those three pillars that you mentioned, the trust, the fun, and really pushing forward and really believing. It's something that you see in many winning teams. But in this case, you also won. It wasn't only the whole journey and everything that maybe afterwards it would have been a really nice story to tell, but you also made the results. So you also delivered. Are you thinking about a future campaign, Caroline?
That's a very good question. I'm always thinking about it. It's there's a saying where once it's they say where once it's in your blood, the ocean race, then you can't get rid of it. And that's definitely something that I can say is true now that I've done 3 races, because you come back from one race, or sometimes a Southern Ocean leg, and you say to each other, I am never doing this again in my entire life. But 2 days later, you've already forgotten about what you said and you want to go again. So there's something there that we have in common as ocean racers, and it's in our blood. So the thoughts are definitely there. At the same time, we started this conversation, I am a competitive person, but I also like to challenge myself, and I raise the bar very high for myself. So the SCA campaign was a huge challenge, because it was the first time women were back. It was a huge opportunity as well, but it was also a challenge to make it work and make it happen and get the results. And Dongfeng Race Team was also a challenge, but it was a different challenge, and here there was actual potential to win the race. So whatever I do next, it's clear that it has to be a challenge. And if we look at the next ocean race, where there will be 2 divisions, so the Volvo 65s, which are the boats we raced in the last 2 editions, and they've introduced the IMOCA 60s, which are similar platforms to the Vendée Globe boats that they race around the world single-handed, which is obviously a completely new thing for the Volvo Ocean Race, because they are foiling boats. And so there will be a little bit more development, the Volvo 65s being very much standard one design boats. The IMOCAs will offer some more technology and some more development. And the foiling is sort of the future. It's the here and now, and we all want to be part of it. And I'm certainly enjoying it a lot, sailing a foiling A-class in my free time. So that would definitely be a challenge for me. If I look at the 65s, I say, I've done the girls' boat. I've been part of the winning team, so I've ticked quite a few boxes. So I'm not sure how big the challenge for me would be to go around the world again on a 65. Then again, on the IMOCAs, that would be a whole new world.
Flying around the world.
Flying around the world and go around the world even faster than we already did. At the same time, I also have a little bit of a reservation, because at the moment due to the virus, obviously, there's a lot of new additional challenges to the race, but there were not that many entries until before COVID. And what was so special about the 65s is the competition, the intensity of the boats being so close together. And, we had port starboard crossings in the Southern Ocean where there's no one else around. You're in a vast ocean, and we would still have to, we were still so close together that we had to avoid each other. And that's what I really enjoyed during the last 2 races. So, and with possibly less boats in the in the Mocha
Yeah, in
class,
that
and
category. Yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
not necessarily maybe less boats, but less competition, because the
Mm.
boats will be more spread out, because there will be development differences. So some boats will be faster than others. And so you will lose a little bit of that really intense competition, and that's definitely something I've enjoyed a lot in the last 2 editions. So yeah, there's always also a little bit of a reservation, but we will see what happens. But
well, I
yeah,
really
the
hope
thoughts are
to
definitely there.
really hope then, yeah, that things unfold on the way you really see yourself there, and yeah, and I really hope to see you around and that the race comes back to the Netherlands too. And yeah, that would be amazing. Caroline, I really thank you for your time. It was a really nice chat, and all your input is definitely something that will resonate on the listeners of the podcast. And yeah, definitely there's many other more things to talk about on the sailing side, but yeah, I tried to more or less keep it more broad. For the people that are not really the biggest fans of sailing until now. And yeah, well, thank you very much, Caroline, and I wish you a great evening, and wish you the best in the future campaigns.
That's great, Charlie. It was my pleasure to do this. Thank you very much for having me. All the best.
Well, thanks. This was Winning Attitude for Entrepreneurs.